you make your way to the famous Phrynopolis auction house. And it is a gorgeous building. Modern, but of course with the classical touches and the pillars and the great doors framing it. Lots of statues about of philosophers and lawmakers and other prominent people. As you then make your way in, and you are greeted at the reception. And there's a young lady there with huge glasses. She's smoking with a cigarette holder and seems not too occupied and happy to talk. How may I help you?
Well, my dear, we have some inquiries we'd like to make with perhaps the facilitator of the establishment. And again, I'll look to Paul, saying, "My dear boy, you're the one who's a bit better at the clever investigation, charm, and all that."
Well, thank you for saying that.
Investigation?
No, well, you see, we're looking for some items, yes. Minoan artifacts in particular. We are very interested in those, and have heard that you perhaps have access to a good supply of interesting items from that time period.
We certainly have some pass through from time to time, absolutely. This would actually be of quite some interest, I think, to our auction house manager. If you just give me a second. And she gets up and goes and knocks on a door and then exchanges a few words in what seems like a broken Greek, because apparently she's not from here. Yes, Mr. Karras is happy to see you now.
Wonderful, excellent. And I muttered to Paul, "Okay, I suppose the play is, we ask him, has he had any new artifacts come in recently? And if he has, well then by Jolly Jove, it makes him suspicious."
Indeed, and we'll see what we can find out in his office. I'll have a very, very close look at everything there.
Karras is a short man, but looking extremely tidy and well dressed in a three-piece suit and a monocle. And he's young, probably in his early 40s, but shines like a charming and successful businessman can do. Hello there. Nice to meet you both. Please come in, have a sit. I understand from my secretary that you have a certain interest in the Minoan collections.
Yes, indeed. The Minoan civilization, of course, is it is fascinating, isn't it? And the collectors that we are working for, they are very interested in unique finds from this time period, and we understand that your house have access to some of the best, if not the best, artifacts connected to this very time period. We'd be very curious to see if you have anything, especially something that's come in recently, that we might be able to see if we can get our employer's interest in.
Certainly, just let me open the books. And he takes out a book and he starts showing you photographs and describes a few of them. And he also, you can see that there are some missing, and he explains that as things that have just been sold. But you can see him sweating a little bit and showing a bit of annoyance about some of the things that he has to skip by.
I will use my sixth sense here. I really want to get to the bottom of this and understand, is this actually going to be the ones who have what we're looking for here, or are we barking up the wrong tree?
You suddenly start to notice a bit of fine print on the pages that he is flipping through. So you don't necessarily understand it, but you start to see names flicking by, and just as he is about to flick by a page that is blank, you see supplier Morgan Richards written down on that page, and you just have the time to put your hand in between that page.
And that's what I do. Now, what do we have here?
Yes, there is that, a little bit of unfortunate history, something that we are very keen to move on with. I can only suspect that you know something if you make a remark.
Of course we do, dear boy. Morgan Richards, why, if I am correct, he was involved in a little bit of scandal. But wait, what's this? And looking at that, how recent is this apparent dealing with Mr. Richards?
2 months ago. But you don't really know when this supposedly thing was exposed and exploded, if that was recent or not. Ethel didn't tell you. So it could be that it was quite recent that this particular event happened.
Yes, Mr. Richards. I don't suppose you've ever found out of where he is now? Have you ever made dealings with him again?
Well, it's an episode we are not very proud of, and we don't know exactly where he is at this point and what he's doing, but from what I've heard from some of the other houses who are less keen to perform as intricate checks as us, and perhaps because they have lesser names that don't count. I heard some are still trading with him, and mind you, of course, I don't know where. The pickups were made, and I couldn't tell you where our drivers went, because that was down to them, of course.
I mean, I certainly understand that you don't want to be connected with someone dealing in illegal wares and things they're not supposed to be doing, of course. And you know, if we were to find out something about where one might be able to find this person, of course, it's not something that we have heard when we visited here, because we've never actually visited your fine establishment, and we've never met you. So if we happen to learn something, then well, that would just be something we happen to overhear in the street. You know, a little pigeon whispered it in our ears. So I will try to charm him, or to see if I can get him to reveal what he actually knows. Hopefully making him feel safe that we are actually not going to cause trouble for his enterprise.
Indeed, and especially since the police are very likely very soon to be involved in the whole matter, well, certainly having someone who, you know, says, this chap actually helped the investigation, well, that would certainly go well for you, wouldn't it, sir?
Let's do this. That because you're helping, we're going to make it an easier task check. Let's make it. I was gonna actually put it at a +2 because he was already sweating so much. But let's make it at a +4 task check. So if your ones land on a 1 to 4, you will have succeeded. Besides landing it under your charm.
34 under 45.
All right then. And before too long, he is making calls and sweating out of his mouth, if it were possible, and you are being picked up by a cargo driver in his truck. You are once again finding yourselves in the Piraeus port city, and this time you are taken to a secluded bit of the port, quite a bit away from the other activities, and an area filled mostly with warehouses, some of them stocking fish and other supplies, getting it frozen up as well as they can, or just chilled, and others seem to be loading cargo from various ships and onto trucks and other vehicles. The warehouse that the Greek driver, after having tried having a civilized conversation in the beautiful Greek language, soon given up and just grunting at you, that warehouse that he is pointing at looks like it's made of brick. And you're approaching it from the back. You see a small window, about 3 meters up. It's a quite tall warehouse. And yes, all you see now is a brick wall and quite a few cargo boxes stashed around here. And other warehouses around you. There's the occasional activity going on, but not many people from what you can see. What would you like to do?
I look to Harry and I say, well, what say you if I were to sneak around a little bit, perhaps get a better vantage point and see if I can find out what's actually going on in here?
I agree, my dear boy. This is most suspicious again. It seems this is the warehouse. He said that some nefarious things have occurred at. So yes, if you could get in using your, you know how, I could keep watch. Let's see. I have a feeling we might get lucky here. Lucky indeed. So I will keep watch as my good friend Paul begins to do his thing.
Very good. And then this warehouse, as far as you know, is where they picked up the supply that this Mr. Richard had been offering them. That later turned out to be fakes. Well, then it's time for you to sneak a little bit, Paul. And I'm not gonna give you an alertness roll right now, Harry. But let's see. You're keeping a little lookout. Let's have a straight sneak roll for starters.
That is a 21 under 65.
Very good. So, you start scoping out the place. The window is a little too high up for you to see. Maybe if you strashed some crates around and then looked up, you could look in, but that could make noise. So, for a start, let's just look around the walls and skip behind some of these cargo crates and see what's up front. And in the front, you encounter a peculiar gathering of people. You first see a celebrity. It is Morgan Richards himself, standing out like a rotten apple in a yard of white chalk, I suppose. He is dressed up in a stark blue three-piece suit with a huge red flower up on his collar, and he's smoking a cigarette and discussing vividly with two gentlemen. Next to him is what appears to be a timid lady, though upon looking a bit further, she seems like she is someone very attentively looking around, like she's doing something. Could be a secretary, could be a partner, could be, I don't know, something else. And they are talking to a man that has his back to you, but you can clearly see a burgundy suit and a fez upon his head. And next to him is standing with a huge chiseled jaw that even protrudes on the sides so you can see it from behind. Someone enormously muscular and tall, dressed in a yellow shirt and a vest and brown trousers. Even look intimidating just seeing them from behind. So we got these four people, and a little to the side is a very small, trying not to be seen, what looks like a ginger-haired little fellow in brown plain clothes. He's nervously rubbing his arm, very keen not to be there among these quite intimidating people, all of them. And they are having a conversation that you can't quite overhear from where you are. But you also see that there is an opening into the warehouse. One door. That's the only door that you can see. One of these kind of garage doors that you pull upwards to open. So, from where you are now, there could be a few options. You could either go back and report to our friend. You could try to sneak into the warehouse, despite all these people being quite close at hand, so it would be a difficult one. Or you and your friend could do a challenge together to try and get the full scope of what's going on, and possibly using a bit of distraction. I don't know, maybe Harry going up and talking to someone or something like that. Those are my spontaneous options, but maybe you have something yourself.
Well, I think if we can work together and use our individual strengths as one unit, combining them, I think that would be our best option here. We need a little bit more before we bring it to someone, and perhaps we can even, I don't know, see if we can get some actual evidence to bring with us.
I suppose you go back to Harry then and relay the situation.
Indeed I do. They're here. The man with the fez. We have found the right place.
Oh, jolly good, but wait. So not only is the man with the fez here, and Morgan Richards, but who are these other people you said?
Did I recognize any of them? I relay the information about how they are dressed and what they're wearing, and...
From what you remember, Tommaso, one of the young ecologists, mentioning, he did say that this man in a fez came together with another Turkish man who was looking big and strong and like he was taken out of a military film or the like. That must have been the one standing with his back to you. The lady, you have no idea. She was blonde, extremely good looking, smoking a cigarette with a pale pink color coming from it in a cigarette holder, and wearing purple.
Director, could I perhaps use 2 story points to add a minor twist to this scene? I'd like to somehow, in some small way, have heard of this woman or know her in some manner.
This is funny, because the way that Paul describes her, she reminds you a lot of an... Was she an MI5, perhaps? Or perhaps Interpol connected? Something about the secret police. Yes. Agent Grey. You met her once at a peculiar gathering in London, and it was her jurisdiction trumping yours, and you had gotten the most of it already, so you were quite happy to leave it over to her. But this is such a different, such a strange other occurrence to know that she would be here. You have a strong feeling that it is her because it's so exactly described the way you remember her.
My God, Paul. This could be completely coincidental, but something about that woman, the way you just... I tell you what, you get into that warehouse. I'll make as best a distraction as I can, and hopefully we can find something. Yes, good idea. Yes, leave it all to your old pal, Fitzroy.
Certainly.
Let us then make a challenge, putting some skills together. What skills would you like to use?
Well, I'm going to be sneaking and trying to, generally speaking, find my way into that warehouse, so I'll go with sneak.
Sneak is good.
Security, perhaps, in order to break something open.
And security for also possibly scoping out if there are any other guards or so, or anything else that you are not immediately noticing, some kind of safety. Yeah, sure. And we're going to add... We got 2 skills then from Paul. Can we have 2 skills from Harry that he thinks would help?
Certainly. So, first of all, I'm going to have to try and charm or subterfuge these individuals, so I'll be doing that at 15%, but I have to try that, I feel.
Yeah, a subterfuge needs to be in there, or either for that or for distraction. It might result in you either, depending on how you do it, if you're trying to cause a distraction, becoming a bit too suspicious, or you actually go up and talk to them and they don't believe you, or whatever with that.
Indeed.
means.
And finally, an agility check, perhaps, because I have a strong feeling that the way I'm going to handle this might cause some trouble. I'd like to be able to dive away, maybe even get into some cover. After all, I am very carefully carrying my hunting rifle on my person. It's been almost impossibly concealed at this point, almost like the person drawing the comic hasn't drawn me with it on, but of course I have it on me, and I am ready to use it. The agility is to get the hell out of their way just in case they start trying to chase me.
Yeah, it's one of those fun situations where in some of the frames it's over your shoulder and in some it's just somewhere else and you don't really know where. But yeah, there it is now. Okay, great. So we've got sneak and subterfuge and we've got agility and...
security.
Great, so let's have those 4 skills then. And let's start with a roll from Harry, who is starting his distractions.
So, the first thing I do to cause the distraction, I'm going to walk straight up to these individuals, and as Paul knows, I have no skill in lying or subterfuge. So I am simply going to blurt out, as best I can, "Ah, the infamous Mr. Richards! I've heard a great deal about you, and I am very interested in talking some business. I've been looking all over the town for you, sir."
Would you like to add a -2 penalty to that to gain 3 story points?
Yes, I am very bad at lying. Ah, and I roll a 20, which sadly, especially with that -2, does not help me with a score of 15%, so I fail this bluff.
You go up to him then and introduce yourself, and however you do, as if you would know him, and then you give a huge wink to Miss Grey.
Exactly. I say, "I have been looking all over for you," and I look to Miss Grey and give her a knowing wink.
And that's very good. Let's now have another roll from Paul while this is going on.
I roll a 16 under my sneak of 65.
You see your moment. For a second, it looks as like this small-framed character, you see them all now as well, the small-framed character to the side, in his kind of brown, inconspicuous clothing and his reddish hair, he's about to look your way, but then there is the noise of Harry existing, and he doesn't. So you just barely get into the warehouse. But back to Harry, where you get the immediate attention of everyone, obviously, and Morgan Richards looks straight at you, and he asks, "Yeah, do I know you?" And there's a second here where, before you have a chance to do something, the big guy with the buzz cut and the squared shoulders, he creaks his knuckles menacingly, as if he's just about to reach out and lift you off the ground. But that's where your agility roll then will come in.
Indeed, I see him approaching. I let out a huff and I say, "Oh, jolly rot, I was never good at lying. To hell with it. We're aware of everything, Richards, you and all your companions, and we are going to stop you, and you will not stop me! Ah!" And I dive away from this man as he begins coming towards me. So I rolled an 82, which of course is a failure. So as this man comes towards me, grabbing me, I will use 2 story points to flip that to a 28. A success on my agility as I try and get away from this hulking man.
Yes, and you hardly have time to do that as he lifts you up. But in doing so, he actually gets a hold of the strap, which means that he just lifts up the rifle and you, and as he tries to actually get a catch on your clothes, the rifle flips around and smacks him on the chin. And he grunts and takes a step back, leaving enough time for you to fall down, catch your feet, and start running off.
Running off I do, trying to find some cover. Again, I'm hoping the ballyrotters chase me, giving my friend Paul time to find what he needs.
And that's when we come to Paul's next role then, which would be security. Paul, I'm going to tell you just what you see in here after you've made that roll, because that is part of the whole challenge.
So I roll a 71 under 75, so that is a pass.
Which means that we have got 3 succeeded rolls out of 4, making this a good outcome. And as then Harry starts running off, leaving the people outside slightly puzzled, you get a chance to look around here inside, Paul. And you see several stacked shelves on one side of the room. It looks fairly open. I mean, the door and everything was open. And on these shelves are obvious forgeries, and so are on several stands around the place. These are, what tourists probably would buy if you want to buy a bust that is clearly not real, or a little, what do you call these, vases and things like that. They've even got price notes on them, and there's a little counter and a cashier place with a desk and some boxes to open. All in all, this looks like a store almost, where these artifacts would then be sold, or poorly made replicas, tourist things. And then there is another garage door at the back, which is closed.
That is where I must go, because these things do not seem of particular note. So yes, I will move to this other door where perhaps they have hidden the good stuff.
Mm-hmm. And Harry, you're doing quite well. They are not following you, from what you can see, after a quick exchange of words, but something is happening, and you're not sure if Miss Grey recognized you or not, but you've stirred up the hornet's nest somehow. There's clearly a bit of agitated activity, and before too long, Paul, as you start to approach this door, you also hear these agitated voices and possibly someone coming. You're not quite sure. You can... let's see. Either you roll for alertness here to try and have an idea of what they're saying, or you get another sneak roll and just whatever you think they're doing, you just throw yourself into this other room, try and open it as quickly as possible.
Well, I'll actually try and listen and hear what they're saying. I roll a 93, but I will flip that failed roll using 2 story points, leaving me with 1 remaining, and get a 39 under 45.
From what you can hear some Turkish accents, and that you think is the man in the fez, and possibly that other big guy. They're saying, they sound a bit agitated. What is this? What do they mean they know you? Ah, come on, everybody knows me. Did you not read the pages this morning? The papers, I'm in every paper all the time. Yes, but they were very specific. They said that you had this, people want to say something. They just want to, you go back in. Come on, keep going. This is a smooth operation. Nothing's going badly. I guess you need to go out to your guys at some point to get some new stuff, but yes, fine. All right, leave them. We'll take a boat out to the island. You hear the one of the Turkish voices say, and we will go get whatever is coming in next. Adam, get in the back. Keep working. All right, sure. I'll be on my way, says a meek voice, and then you start hearing footsteps of someone approaching.
I will try and hide then if someone is approaching.
Well, I'm worried that they're all going to start getting away and enter the building, and Harry Fitzroy doesn't sit around being idle, so I am now going to run up to the 2 men going to the boat. Yes, we can't lose them. They're the ones we're after all. I run straight up to them, with gun at the ready, and I simply say, "You two, it's over. We've already called the police. They're on their way, and God help me, you two aren't going anywhere, sir." But of course, I am aware that this is quite a dangerous situation I'm in, and so I'm happy to gain 9 story points to be captured at this point, hoping to cause a distraction in my capture.
All right. Well, let's at first see then if this actually works as a sudden intimidation. Because why not? You're standing there with a hunting rifle pointing at these 2 men anyway, who are not maybe completely prepared for what's going on. this is actually quite fun. We could turn this into a duel of wills between what pretty soon seems to be the man in the fez and the red or burgundy suit. You notice that he is the one leading, and so he is the one you're mostly directing your ideas at. And so a duel in this game is a fun concept, so I'm glad we got to showcase it. It means that you put forward a skill, and then he has to respond with either opposing skill or the same skill. And then he will put forward a skill, and you have to respond. And you do so until one of you has 3 wins. And whoever gets the 3 wins will win the duel. If you win the duel, you will have caught these people, or they are not going straight into combat with you. And if you fail, they are probably going to get violent.
Very well then. I pick willpower as my skill. After all, a lot of what I've just said is a bit of a bluff, and I'm actually completely in the open here, hoping on Paul's help, so this is purely my willpower against his, or theirs.
Interesting. Let's see. We have a willpower skill for... He doesn't have a willpower skill, but he has a basic skill. I'm going to use his basic skill for this. And that's at 45. So let's see who rolls... who succeeds, and who rolls the highest, if you succeed.
Right. I roll a 27 under 65.
Very good. And he rolls a 64 over 45, which means that he fails. And you get 1 win.
Very good. Let us roll again.
Now it is his turn. And he is going to use his skill called Barking Orders. Because he got a special skill, which is very high. It's at 85. And he's going to try. He's saying, Boris, get rid of this person immediately. And you get a chance to respond with a skill that you think would be, if you can motivate it.
I believe agility could now come into play as I try and back off a little. I don't want to get grabbed.
Yep, while still holding your gun menacingly at him. All right, let's roll for these 2 skills.
I roll a 1 under 65.
Well, he rolls a 91 over 85. So that's another success at you. This man, which you hear him, he calls him Boris, steps forward and try and grabs with you with your fist, and you take nimbly a step back, now holding the gun at him, and it is time for you to choose a skill that this man will oppose.
Range combat time. I don't want to shoot the man, but I'm going to try and shoot just to the side and I said don't move, sir!
Very good. Even though this is a hunting rifle with a single shot that you need to reload in between, you could prove your point here. And, right, then he is going to use... He's going to use his range skill as well. And he's going to pull out his Beretta and try and... It's not combat, but we're going to see who menaces who best.
I roll a 94. That is not under 50. That's 50%, that's for sure. So I'm going to need to use 2 story points to flip that to a 49. Just succeeding.
Oh, yes, because your ranged combat increased in the last session.
Indeed.
Very good. All right, then. Let's roll for this person. And he's rolling... not amazingly. So he fails this one too. And what happens is that you both raise your guns, or, well, yours was already raised, but as he quickly pulls out his gun to shoot at you, your rifle goes off and it shoots his gun out of his hand.
Ha ha!
And there it falls down on the floor, and he's slowly raising his arms into the air. No, but this sound, of course, alerts a few people in the surrounding area. and you can hear a bit of voices being shouted now that this, and he is slowly raising his hands into the air, and the big guy doesn't seem completely convinced. He says, "Mehmet, come on, let me take care of this little fly. What are you doing here? What is this you're going on, disturbing a beautiful business that we are running for good causes?"
Ha! Nonsense! I know all about the island. I know all about the professor. You two are the biggest ruffians I've ever seen in my life. And you are going to go to jail for your illegal artifact business.
Illegal artifact business? We are liberating things that... tell him, Mehmet, tell him. It sounds like this, this big man, he seems genuinely believing that they're doing a good things here, whereas the other man who is dry washing his hands, he looks sleazy, as anyone could ever be. And he says, "Now, come now. There's no need for any kind of violence. What is it that you are after? We have made quite a profit here, and you can see we are dealing with people high up in the world. Morgan Richards, yes? Perhaps we can help you with anything."
And at that point, my eyes dramatically dart to the building, because I am really hoping this has been more than enough to give Paul time for what he needed to do.
So let's go back to Paul. Paul, you hear the footsteps of someone coming, and what is it that you do?
I'm hiding and wanting to keep an eye out for what they are going to do. Perhaps they're going to come and open this door and allow me to see these items that are held within.
Very good. Roll for a sneak then.
5.
This little man comes in as you are cautiously hiding, well, just behind a statue. You see a statue that is about your size, holding up his one hand into the air, letting a pigeon land on it. And you have just the time to take on that exact same pose, and you're standing behind this statue, holding up your hand like so. And the little man, you hear the footsteps coming in. You can barely move. As you slowly go around the statue to always be on the exact opposite side, and you hear a jingling of keys and a click as he opens the door and goes in. Not too long after that, though, you hear a gunshot outside, and the young man rushes out. So he has left the door open to that inner room. Now, what do you do? Because you might be worried about the gunshot, of course, or you may take this time to see what's going on in there.
Well, I'm here for a reason. I am here to find out what is behind that door, so that is what I will go and do. Hoping to find, of course, the evidence that will allow us to put these people where they belong.
You get into the room. In this smaller back room, as it turns out to be, you find several half-made statues, along with what looks like genuine ones. It's like a little workshop. You find molds, you find a device to make vases and similar things on. This is like someone has been making things here. There are actual artifacts, and there is a big safe as well.
I will study the vases, see if they mean something to me, and then if I can't really glean much from them, then I will attempt to do something about this safe. I know safes, and perhaps this is even one made by that brand that I know so well.
So as you look at these artifacts, you can see that they all have different little labels on them, or that they are bundled together in small clumps, the ones that seem genuine at least. They all have names of different isles, different places in Greece, and one of them does have the label Philakes on them. You believe that these could all have been coming together here from different excavation sites, perhaps, archaeological sites. There are statues, jewelry, and other finds, and there are some that looks like they've just been recently brought here, not been catalogued yet. There are boxes filled with the stuff. So what you can tell here is that it's a workshop. Someone is making the forgeries right here, and there are plenty of incriminating evidence to show you that. But you're not stopping at that, are you? You want to see what's in that safe as well. And let's have a little roll for that word again. Prestidigitation. Can your digits say presto?
Can they indeed? What happens if you get a karma roll?
That depends on if it's a success or a failed karma roll. But yes, you do get a story point either way.
Right. That is a 55 under 65.
As you click this safe open, inside you find ledgers and books, and quickly looking at them, you can see that it's a catalogue of information about what museums and private collectors these things have been sold to. Both the real ones and the fake ones. And you know that these people and establishments would all be very nervous about if that if that came out. And you could either keep that for yourself and start your own little extortion, or you could of course hand it over to the police. There is also a satellite phone in there.
That is most excellent. I will utilize that phone then.
And of course, because you've sat down and had Ozo with him, you have the direct number to the investigator, to Inspector Basil Dimopoulos.
Inspector, I say as I've called him, I have it all. I have all the evidence. Ledgers showing everything that has been sold and bought. I have it all. It's in the warehouse here in Perez Harbor. We have this case fully blown open. Just come over here, bring some men with you. We need, quite a few actually. There's some bad stuff going on here. Guns have been fired, but if you can come over here now, you will have everything that you need to put a lot of people behind bars and to be the big hero.
And as this is happening, of course, I look at the gentleman with the fez and I say, my gun pointed, all right, we will indeed. Let us talk. Get off that boat, stand over there, and we can talk as much as you want. As I said, it's already too late. The police will be here any moment.
And of course you don't know this, but you have started this bluffing track and you are sticking with it, and no one believes what you're saying until the actual sirens start sounding. The culprit turning out to be a Mehmet Elogen and his strong arm Boris Recep. They stand aside. The driver of the boat, on the other hand, he drives away as they step up on land, and you don't have time to catch him. But you get an idea that he is not the main culprit here. And Mr. Morgan Richards standing outside, being way too busy indulging in bragging about his exploit to his secretary and catching the little red-haired, as it turns out to be, Irishman in his bragging. They stand there as well as the police come. But the lady in purple then quickly dashes to the side of the warehouse, where a crate turns out to have been specially prepared. She kicks it open, puts on what looks like a backpack of sorts. But before, and you see this, Paul, as you just come out, hearing the sounds of sirens, a gout of flame erupts from behind the backpack. And it turns out that it is a jetpack, a mobile jetpack. Whoever has access to such technology, and that's when it all clicks. The purple suit, the having seen her before and being involved in strange places, Harry? Goodness me, she must be an agent of the octopus. But off she sails into the skies and disappears with a little glimmering star, making a little ding as the police rounds up the rest.
Just before she leaves, I run over and just call out, Miss Grey! Miss Grey!
And you think you hear a vague ha 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 over the sound of the jetpack. But there they are, and there you all are, and the criminals are being rounded up, and you are being thanked heartwarmingly by the inspector, and he tells you about the other people that they've caught, and before long this whole thing is exposed. It turns out that this young, tiny, scrawny-looking man, he is a fantastic artist. His name is Adam Finley. He's from Ireland, has been drawn into this, and he is making the forgeries that then are being sold by this Mehmet and Boris. Somehow, Mr. Morgan found this lucrative business opportunity and got involved. But do the roots go deeper than that? Does this Mr. Morgan Riches have any connections to the octopus? And where will this take our heroes, and who will they take with them in a possible future episode of the Troubleshooters?
For now, I simply clap my hands around Paul, raise a glass of whiskey, and I say, "And you know the damnedest thing, Paul? I had no idea that you'd already called the police! Isn't that hilarious?"
Yes. It certainly never gets boring to be around you, Harry. To future adventures, I say, and I raise my bottle of ouzo.
Yes, and you just suddenly have these in your hands, and in your other hand you have a cigarette, Paul. And this is how it looks as the villains are being pulled into the police cars, and you are standing there toasting and laughing.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we played The Minoan Affair for the Troubleshooters. The Troubleshooters is published by our friends at Helmgast, who have also kindly sponsored this series. The music was made by Phonotech, featuring a number of collaborations with other artists, and was used with permission from their label Cryochamber. Check out their website at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for some moody dark ambient for your gaming table. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Nastasia Raulerson, Simon Cooper, David, Julián, Camilla, Bob Lange, Julián, Cameron, Xabier, and Antxon for their generous support. And we'd of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to bonus campaigns for Cultivated Lost and Coriolis there, as well as get early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon, as well as play Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening, and remember, the octopus is about to emerge.